would seem like the priorities is old business.
Identifying priorities should,
Oh, I see, it's down below. Okay, as long as it's
Yeah.
on here.
Okay.
Yeah, I put it, I
So-
switched it.
And then, okay, so safe, so you want, so you,
Yeah, I have a.
update on the partners for
Right.
P4P. Okay.
Okay, so let me see if Mike, can you hear us? Oh, great.
oh, yay!
And we can hear you, thank you.
Okay.
So is this working?
And I told Jenny that we're online too,
Okay.
so I let her know.
Is that better? Oh,
Can you hear us
good.
now?
Yes.
Ooh, we
That's
have
a little bit
microphones.
better. Nice, okay. So, Freda, you asked about the Safe Streets for All and an update on that.
You want to start with that? or-
Yeah, why don't I just start with that? That project, the agreement was just executed, and a consultant was chosen, Kittleson and Associates. And so Jeff Reiger, I believe is the way that you pronounce the last name, has worked with the city of Erie before on the active Erie transportation plan. So very familiar. They are also consultants to PennDOT, so there's a natural fit there.
Can we go back up and?
Yeah, I
What
have
is
no
Safe
idea what
Streets
we're
for
talking
All?
about.
Can we
Sorry.
just start with that?
Okay.
Sorry.
So, Safe Streets and Roads for All is a Department of Transportation grant that we received.
Well, it's a bigger program. It's just we happen to have a grant.
Well, this
Is
is
it
the
you?
planning
Right.
portion of the program.
Right.
So, and please feel free to chime in, because I'm also, this hasn't started, but I
Right.
know what I know from the scope of work. But it is a transportation plan. They're looking at fatality, areas where there's been high crash data. And I guess sort of the goal of this program is to have 0 fatalities by a certain date. Or that's the overarching goal. And so the city of Erie has that type of data and analysis is going to be done by the firm. They're going to be looking at transportation data. They're also going to be doing quite a robust engagement of communities that have typically been underserved. So there's that component that we made sure to build into the RFP process. And then the whole reasoning for this grant, this planning grant, is to then hopefully go out for an implementation phase, implementation money through the same stream, through the same grant stream. So once you have the plan in place, then you are able to go out for the implementation money. This project, the kickoff meeting is scheduled for next week. And then at that meeting, which is like just internal, public works planning, we'll be determining who the steering committee is for that.
Okay, and so this meeting, sorry, I have to take notes.
Oh, yes.
I'm
okay.
doing meeting
Am I talking
minutes,
too
so
quickly?
yeah, I'm
Sorry.
trying to keep up. So this meeting that's next week, this
It's
is
the
based
kickoff.
upon the agreement. So who's with the agreement? I missed that part.
So the kickoff for this project for
Okay.
Safe Streets and Roads for All is the consultant, which is Kittleson and Associates.
Kittleson.
Right. Public Works.
KITT, Kittleson and Associates.
Mhm.
Okay.
And Public Works will be involved in this first initial meeting, the planning department. There might be a few others in there internally. And then from there, we're going to develop the steering committee. So from what I've discussed with Jeff, the lead on the project, and also from what the proposal stated, they do an excellent job of engaging and making sure that they have a very strong, diverse set of expertise on their steering committee. So I'll be able to report back a little bit more next time on who might be on that committee, and The project's completion is March of 2025.
You mean the planning stage
Well,
or the
this project,
implementation?
no, this project, this planning, this
Yeah.
grant fund
Only for planning.
for planning
Yeah.
is to be completed by March 2025, which is actually quite aggressive, that we had a longer timeline and they were able to reduce it by several months, and it was intentional so that they could go, so that we could then apply for the implementation phase money that same year. So
Okay.
they did it very intentionally, their timeline.
So I understand there's like an extra $200 million of implementation money that is in the program. And what I'm confused about is the Active Erie Plan identified areas in the city that lack sidewalks. The Transportation Improvement Plan includes betterment projects within the city and outside the city where there are missing sidewalks. I have several times communicated with Leanne Parmenter over the lack of sidewalks around city parks, which is about the easiest place you could put sidewalks because the city owns the parks. And I'm concerned that we already have done the Active Erie Plan. We've already done the TIP. We've already identified areas where sidewalks need to be done. And now we're going out for yet another planning program that isn't going to be done until 2025. And it seems like we're doing some of the same stuff for the second and third time.
Well, in order to get implementation money and to get the projects done and streets to improvements on streets for safety, you have to do this plan through this particular funding stream.
Because we did a
I
plan.
can't speak exactly to the active transportation plan. I mean, I know of it. I've skimmed it. I haven't read it fully, but this focus is different than that.
And this thing about fatalities, that there's a substantial part of the community that addresses pedestrian safety that talks about fatalities itself is kind of not addressing the whole thing. But I actually have a lot of faith in Kittleson. Well, I just want to go on record of my concern that we have already identified some of these priorities twice, and that so they're in plans, but yet we're having to do yet another plan when it would seem like there is a plan that could be applied for in the May 16th implementation deadline, but I understand there's apparently not going to happen. I'm not going to be here in May, but I would like to be involved with the committee. I had hoped that I would have been involved with Active Erie. I was not included. There was almost no city resident representation of pedestrians. I would like to be involved as a pedestrian, as somebody with a long history of concern and activity around pedestrian safety in the city. If we can get some of that money, that'd be great. It sounds like we're going to miss the boat on this first round of implementation funding.
Yeah, because we have to do the planning.
Well, that's why I don't
project.
understand. We already did a plan.
Well, I haven't looked at them, but I would assume that there are differences and different kind of intents and the
Yeah.
data analysis.
Like I
and
said, I
purpose,
just
so-
wanted to go on record about that.
Yep, we gotcha.
Okay, so that's that. So you want to talk about the P4P?
Well, why don't we go back to the agenda?
Well,
I
it's
mean,
on the
we're
agenda.
out of order, yeah.
Well, so
I asked to move the P4P above the priorities because in the conversation on the P4P, we might be bringing stuff up that has to do with priorities.
So Safe Streets became A, update on P4P became B, we're just moving everything down. So aside
Jackie
from
chose
that, we're on,
to put the Safe Streets first, so we
It's-
did that.
it's
Sorry.
fine. So we're,
Okay,
there was no old business, so now we're on B, update. So we are on the agenda under new business, Part B, update on the P4P grant.
thank you. So if you look in the packet that I provided you, after the minutes, you will see a flyer that was so nicely done by our consultants, Michael Baker International, they're working on this project. This was a flyer that was, well, let me step back. So Porter Stevens came and explained to you the project, the funding stream, the timeline, the budget, that type of thing. In the last month or so, a advisory committee was formed of many different members, and those advisory members then made and a list of contacts of frontline communities or organizations to engage with. That was formulated, and then contacts were made asking if those organizations were interested in participating in this project. So this was the flyer that they received, and this flyer talks about the partnership, that the focus will be on building consensus on the major environmental issues impacting the health and quality of life of Erie residents, and then working on solutions to address priority issues. The partnership will transition to a steering committee eventually to help with the completion of a local climate action plan. So we talked about that initially, that this was the beginning stages of, it was also the missing engagement piece for the climate action plan. Then it asks, how can you help? And that means in terms of the organization, they can assist with collecting feedback from the public on environmental issues, their engagement with city residents, especially those who live in neighborhoods that are typically underrepresented in city activities and projects. Next week, we will be meeting with those organizations to explain the process, explain how we're going to roll out sort of their engagement, because it's kind of like a train the trainer, or if you will, we'll give them a bit of a toolkit so that they can then go out to their connections and community and engage with their community and get the feedback that we need. So this is more of just a session to see if they're interested, and hopefully then to partner with them. On the back of this flyer is what I wanted to bring your attention to. Oh, and by the way, the page afterwards, the couple pages afterwards, that's the scope of the project. You haven't seen that, and I wanted you to have that so you could understand this project just a little bit better, especially that it's going to be completed in July, so we're forging through. This, on the back side of this flyer, are what started out as thematic buckets that the advisory committee started to discuss. And that advisory committee is made up of Jenny Tompkin, Sam, you're on that.
I'm on that. From
Sarah
this-
Peelman,
And Sarah Stallman. and
Stallman,
You.
me, and
then-
Michael Baker.
Yeah.
So that's the committee. So we intentionally brought those that were very heavily involved in, this for many years, bringing that group together. And so on the back are the priorities that the advisory committee felt that they wanted to address when engaging with the communities. So I wanted you to take a look at some of these, because based upon the priorities that you discussed last meeting, kind of can fit into some of these big, high-level categories. So I'll just give you a few seconds there to take a look at that.
I would say that number 7, by talking about source reduction, is actually the best way. Source control is the best way to reduce waste. And all the others are good, but not as good as source reduction or source control. And utilizing more responsibly produced materials isn't quite the same, but I just want to reflect that I think that that's lacking in the description of number 7.
So you're saying you want to call it source reduction
Well, source control,
or source
or
control?
at least it should be.
This was already sent out, I
I
should
know.
be clear.
I'm
Okay, I'm
just-
just, yes.
I'm making a comment. I never had an opportunity to review this. But having worked in the solid waste field for many years, source control was always the highest part of the hierarchy, of the waste hierarchy, was source control.
Okay.
And, you know, we've
So I also wanted to share with you, and this is not very easily probably readable, but I'll send this to you in your email. And Sam, you've seen this, and you might be able to speak to this a little bit better than I have. I think you've seen this. It might have been only sent. This is from Jenny.
Jenny.
And I asked her if I could share this today. I'd like to send this out to you. I probably should have done that.
Is there a way to turn on that TV too, so that, so I'm not looking behind?
Sure, yeah, let me pass this one. This is not good. Thanks. Is there a way to turn that TV on so that there can cross? Thank you. So what Jenny did for the advisory group, she put
Thank you.
together this spreadsheet that looks at case studies of local climate action plans. And she talks about the plan's focus, the major sections or subcommittees that, broke out from the priorities, and then some notes on it, and then provided a link. And I thought this would be very helpful, just to sort of keep us focused, and maybe help us in the decision making. She also included an example, I think, from Evanston, Illinois, and then this didn't come out right. This was something else. This actually was Penn Future's recommendations, and then she had some questions here having to do with partners, entities, status of the city's greenhouse gas inventory. I think these were just some potential questions, but this was also interesting. She looked at several different, and it's not coming out very clearly, but she looked at several different of the city's plans, like Erie Refocused and the neighborhood plans, and she pulled out the sustainability priorities within each of those plans, which I think is really important because, those discussions and that feedback was already gathered. So we're not reinventing the wheel. These are things that were already priorities in a pre-existing plan. So,
Be interesting to align those with this listing from the P4P flyer.
and I think that Michael Baker did some of that. They looked at Jenny's information, and then some of that's somewhat of how the thematic buckets were
Oh, right.
formulated.
Yeah, okay.
So, this is not easy to read, and Jenny would probably be the best to come and explain it. But just wanted to give you some context, and maybe there's some guidance there to help with coming up with the priorities. I don't know if she's available.
Jenny, she's online, but I don't think we can see her. She maybe has her camera off. All we're seeing is Mike, so
So she's
might
on
be-
the Zoom?
She's on the Zoom, but she can't talk. Yeah. We could promote her. Oh, so, Jenny, if you're online and you want to say anything about our discussion, oh, she's not there. Okay. Oh, I saw two participants and thought she was the other one, but we are the other one. Okay. That's funny. Oh, she's on YouTube, not Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She can
So-
make comments unless comments are turned off. She could enter comments.
On YouTube, but we're not monitoring the YouTube on
Unless one of
here.
us wanted to,
So, to the,
and then she could comment.
Would that be helpful for you to have her go over that?
this is a question to the
Oh, wait a
audience.
minute, she's texting me. Thanks, I'm only on YouTube. Do you want to be able to be on the Zoom just to make comments, not necessarily speaking? There she goes.
I think a lot has to happen for technology. I mean, I don't do anything with technology, but this seems pretty sad.
So, I-
She's just watching.
Jenny
us.
and I had a talk. She's kind of my EAC whisperer.
Uh-huh.
I will divulge my secret. And she's encouraging me to try and, that the more we can focus on a small group of priorities, the better chance we have of getting
Yes,
them
I
done.
agree with that.
Right, so she said she really encouraged us to get behind helping this through and helping to have the climate plan, so I'm for that. I'm just concerned when categories don't mention things at all that some of us are, you mentioned native plants, and maybe that's sort of in there with stormwater, but I just, hopefully that there can be some.
I like the source reduction addition to
Okay.
point 7, and I
Source
have that in the
control.
notes. You said source reduction, and
Is it source
under waste
Okay,
reduction,
whatever.
that it would be.
It's source control, but, okay, and the other, if there's somewhere way under climate resiliency, possibly, because we've
Mike
mentioned
forwarded
stormwater.
the email to Jenny that has his Zoom link, so she should be able to.
She
No,
said,
Jenny-
not sure if it's helpful, proceed without me, and she's
Okay,
sending me yet
so
another
That's
text.
fine.
But anyway, maybe we can, since you're just taking notes and you're on the steering committee,
Uh-huh.
if there's some way to slip some of the stuff around native vegetation into climate resiliency where it mentions stormwater, it sort of fits.
I would think it would be better under trees and green
Trees and green
space.
But
Space
it
that goes
only
anyplace.
talks about parks, but okay. Anyway, you get the
No,
gist.
I'm saying that, okay, that's what it currently says, but
Right.
if you want something in here on native species,
Right.
that seems to be
Right.
the appropriate
Right,
place.
encouraging
And so-
residents to, to modify gardening. There's a lot of ways to have incentives for that. You got the gist, you know where to put it, you're on the steering committee, I have faith.
Okay, I still have a question about number 7. We're using the word source control and source reduction. What are we talking about as opposed to waste reduction?
Well, source control is not having something in the waste stream in the first place. So,
Which is also what source reduction is. That's what I thought you meant.
okay, well, it's
Okay,
just
so
it's waste reduction.
Control and reduction are pretty much the same thing as you're seeing it as? Okay.
Yeah.
So that was my, I
So
couldn't,
basically, reduce the amount of waste by not just expanding opportunities to recycle, compost, reuse, and use different materials, but also to reduce the output of waste to begin with, right? So instead of having disposable cups, having reusable,
yeah.
right? Something like that is another alternative
Right, and
to
event-
waste reduction that is, yeah, Mike, that's right there. Yeah, so,
and
You're-
having
you're right,
water-
and that's
Eliminating
missing.
all single-use plastics.
Right.
Yes.
There's also
Source
responsible packaging, there's,
Right, so it's reducing waste to be before it starts, basically, and that is missing. So adding that to point 7 and then finding a place for like native plants. I put it under point 3, but we can look
Yeah,
to
that's where I
see
would put it.
On the backside of your minutes, of the
Yeah.
priorities that you all,
that we
you all talked
talked about last time.
right.
Yeah, I wasn't here. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we were going to get there. Okay,
So-
I'm delighted that you understood what my concern was and yours, and that you're able to kind of, somehow, it'll get heard in the process, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all one can hope for. Okay,
Can I have an extra piece of paper? Like, do you have a-
so how, is there anything else? So I guess, in the process of establishing this group, Penn Future and some of us who were volunteers with Penn Future did a lot to help build the case for advocating for the Environmental Advisory Council. So I think what I was hearing from my little whisperer was, how can we help to advocate for moving forward to a climate action plan? So I guess that's what I would say, and that I
Okay,
didn't.
so we've moved on to point C, identifying priorities for the Environmental Advisory Council.
Are
Is
we
that-
good with saying that?
Have we,
Yeah.
do we all feel like we've been updated enough on the P4P grant? I guess is my question, yes. Okay, and so we're moving on to C now, and identifying priorities. And Freda, you're basically advocating for the development of the climate action plan.
Yeah, whatever we need to do to help.
Well, I think at this point, we can't talk about the priorities. What we have to do is prioritize them.
Right.
Which ones do we think we want to deal with? I mean, we have a whole list. And, and if we're going to be looking and working with,
Okay. And
I would think we would want to support the priorities of the P4, whatever this plan is called.
P4P,
P4P.
people for places or places.
And I should know that because I'm going to be at that
Partners.
meeting.
Well,
but
that,
partners,
and that's
right,
in
Partners
Sarah's
for
list,
Places.
under Sarah's, the Climate Action Plan and Climate Resilience.
All right, so, yeah, so on our list from from last week, we have
Can we group
Different-
any of these?
points that were made by different people, and then we have an update on city priorities that was given by Sarah Peelman.
So I wondered if there's some of these that fit together that we can group.
Yeah, well, for instance, if we take a look at them, so HECA would certainly be part of number 6 on the P4P plan,
Okay.
right?
so-
Because that's
So.
historic sources of,
So Pat is you're basically suggesting that maybe I just want to make sure I'm taking notes correctly, so I'm not trying to be annoying, but to identify our priorities, that maybe a good thing to do would be to start mapping the priorities from last meeting onto the 9 priorities from the P4P grant.
we could
Is
try
that
that,
correct?
although now that I'm saying that about HECA, actually what we're not dealing with an air issue, we're dealing with water issues and soil issues. So
No.
it really doesn't go,
No.
Well, we got 6.
it's not really part of 6.
We have 6. Is it part of 6?
Pardon me?
Is it part of 6?
No, because we're not dealing with air quality, we're dealing with water quality, both surface water and groundwater, and soil quality. Because the plant has been shut down, air quality is not the predominant issue like it was when the plant was operating.
Okay, so do we have a water thing?
No, we don't.
Do we want, so, I mean, we are not going to, we're not adding stuff to these 9. We're not gonna add a 10, but we can have our own list of
We
priorities.
could have our own list of priorities, but we could also see, I mean, one way of kind of prioritizing our list is see if they're already on this list. If we intend to kind of adopt this list as something, we want to look at.
Or if, and also the things that are on here that aren't on here, to group some of them together.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, so I think the P4P kind of priorities are kind of categories as opposed to looking at the list.
Right.
They're more specific, right? HECA is something specific. Single-use plastics is much more specific.
Mm-hmm.
Although we do have the climate action plan. I don't know.
But it would go under number 7.
Yeah. I'm just, I don't, what I'm saying is that I don't know that it's a necessary activity.
Right.
That we map our listing from, Pat, I thought had a good idea, and you went through the same kind of mental process, right? Where you're like, oh, let's map these and see how they, and then immediately went, well, is that really necessary?
That's not going to work. Right.
These are more catch-alls, right?
Yeah.
These are catch-alls.
Which these?
These 9 are like catch-alls that your HECA will fit into one of these, but they don't necessarily, well,
It doesn't.
okay, maybe not all of them will fit, but most of these on the list do fit into some general category in here. At least from the priorities that were mentioned last meeting.
I think probably it's supposed to, HECA probably is intended to be under like the public health and well-being, because it's a public health kind
Yes,
of, although the
okay.
description may not perfectly fit.
Exactly. Yeah, it could
Yeah.
definitely be there.
So, but I think that that's kind of the idea,
Mhm.
is that HECA would fit under that. So, the question is,
So
I
the-
guess, how do we move forward
So
on
what-
setting our priorities?
So the goal of this, if I could resume leading the discussion, would be to have our priorities as opposed to necessarily this. We were sort of playing with that. But to look at these, like I was suggesting that we group them just to see how many of them are the same or similar, and then we could decide which ones are most important to us as a group.
Okay, and I would suggest that we ask, since neither Bob nor Matt or Sam were
We're
here
here.
last week, are there others that you want to add to this list?
Is it open for discussion?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, I been thinking about this, and this actually fits into the first one, buildings and energy. How do I put this? I think it would be a priority to somehow encourage solar panels, both residential, commercial, and industrial, trying to actually attract a solar panel manufacturer to Erie.
We have one.
Do we really?
Yes.
In the city?
Wait, no,
Well, we
not
have-
a manufacturer of solar panels. We have Solar
An
Revolution that
installer.
installs.
They're an
Installs
installer.
is different than
Yes, no,
manufacturing.
these would be like high-paying manufacturing jobs. They'd be made in the city. I would assume there'd be some sort of taxes, I don't know. I didn't go too far down the rabbit hole, but.
So if you look at Sarah's list of city ones, you could say, can we just add to that, just attract manufacturers? Just as a place to put it?
Well, that,
No, she has solar energy.
yeah, she has
on
solar
there.
energy, but I don't know if that's necessarily, I guess, especially for residential, I mean, you're talking about $12,000 to $15,000 for a residential home. The median income, I think, for the city of Erie is like $43,000. Most people aren't going to be able to afford that, even with the federal tax break, I think, of 30%. So, I mean, that would still, $3,600 to $4,500 off after a tax break still leaves about $10,000. Most homeowners, I would may not be able to afford that type of investment.
So we're just going to add that to the list as a standalone thing.
So, I want to point out that part of a climate action plan could be looking at kind of that installing solar panels becomes part of a climate action plan as one of like the steps, one of the action items, and part of that could be kind of looking at mechanisms. So by working on the climate action plan, we could also be working on what you're talking about,
Yeah.
I guess is
And
basically
could be
the
looking
point I
at
want to make.
community solar and all of that
Yeah.
sorts of stuff. That would be a.
If we
that
can
would
do
be
it as a
piece of it.
community-wide initiative, we can get kind of, you know, it's incentives, yeah, when you're,
Exactly.
so when you do things, economies of scale, right? So if we get a whole bunch of people that are able to team up, then you can get economies, so you can get it for a better price, so.
But just so you know, there is a household in Northeast on the Bluff who pays pennies a year for electricity, and their whole house is electric
Oh, I believe it.
because of solar panels.
Yeah.
Well, Cindy Purvis in my neighborhood, whose family, her son started Solar Revolution, she has 7 panels on her house.
Mhm.
So she, I don't know what, where they're at, but she's got 7.
I know one of the engineers were.
But it is an
doesn't work
initial
very much.
cost that you have to,
Well,
unless you
that's
work
it.
with some company, which we've been looking into it
Mhm.
at the monastery. So if you work with someone, then they do all the buying,
Mhm.
and you gain the energy profits.
Right.
Mhm.
I'm going to
The
be
energy,
put-
but they, any profits they get.
I'm putting on a new roof next month, so I'll,
I just put one on
I know
too.
you haven't seen this, but so the spreadsheet here will show things like one of the main topics in a climate action plan would be renewable energy.
Right.
Or buildings and energy, which is what's on the list here. And under that, you would have maybe a subcommittee or a subgroup just dealing with possibly.
Is there any reference to the 2030 group?
Sorry,
Is there any reference to the 2030 energy group?
in,
I think the city of Erie is one of the members. I know that we are folks that have already done like looked at all of their energy sources and are now looking to reduce all their carbon output by 2030. They meet regularly.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that in here, in these priorities, but it's possible. Oh, yes, here it is.
Okay.
Yes, so how Jenny puts it is in the notes okay, so this is one particular case study she was looking at. She has here, sorry, I just had it, climate mitigation, and this is from Euclid, Ohio. They have the climate mitigation and renewable energy and transportation, and then in the note, she has goal of 30% GHG emissions reductions by 2030 compared to 2010.
Yeah, but these are local institutions, like Erie Insurance is a part of it. Some of the universities are.
But these were case studies that she looked at
Oh,
so
to
the
be able to formulate priorities for the city.
The 2030 district, which the city is a part of, right, could help with giving ideas on how we can incentivize, how we can make things happen. So they could provide, but it's not there. Yeah. So I think they could be of assistance in writing the climate action plan and coming up with action steps
Yeah.
within the climate action
Yeah,
plan.
and they have lots of resources in terms of grants. I mean,
Mhm.
at the meeting last week, they were talking of millions of dollars that's available.
Yeah, especially with Bill and Ira.
Mhm.
Okay. So just trying to figure out how we're going to move forward with this to get through it.
Any other, so
I-
Matt, did you have another one that you wanted to add?
I'm always about green space, streetscape. I was actually looking at 12th Street on my way down here, and that's just,
Pretty
I think it's
sad.
just the time of the year. It's all gray and yucky, but I don't quite know where they'd put a verge at, and it's PennDOT's
what?
verge. It's the grassy area between the road and the sidewalk. I don't know where they would put it because, well, first off, it's PennDOT's right away, and I mean they kind of tell us what they're going to do with it, but I mean, like that 12th Street corridor.
If there was a verge, it would be possible to plow the street without totally obliterating the sidewalk, and nobody ever plows from Sass to Pittsburgh in the
Yeah.
wintertime.
And that would, that's
I
one of
mean,
the-
nobody ever clears the sidewalks.
Yeah, well, yeah, because it just blows it all up on there, yeah. That would be an advantage of having a verge there. It's
Right.
just, convincing the state that that's a worthwhile endeavor. That's what I-
Streetscapes, is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, streetscape,
Yeah.
And
And we have lots of
street trees.
neighborhoods, that have that already.
Are we all done with that? I mean, did you go to any of the visioning meetings for the 12th Street project?
Yeah, I didn't have a chance, unfortunately. I
Yeah.
was at 10 o'clock and.
They're all in the daytime,
Yeah.
yeah.
Evening events coming up on May 21st.
May 21st?
Yeah.
So be sure to get that in there.
Oh, definitely. I'm trying to think.
Anything else? that you
I
wanted
can
to
keep
add?
rambling if you want. I'm kidding. No, I'm good. I'm good. That's all I got. Thank you for listening.
Bob, did you have anything that you wanted to
The
add?
ones that I was thinking of have already been pretty much covered
Yeah, that's
on
what I
this
was-
list. But,
Yeah.
I was particularly interested in the single-use plastics and, and landscaping and trees in particular, because in my neighborhood, there are so many dead trees in the city right away, and they just kind of wait to take them.
Trees.
Yeah,
When they
that-
fall down, then they take them away, and not until,
Oh, I was actually thinking about that too, because I know when that big windstorm came through and
Mhm.
they were knocking down those large trees in the right of way that unfortunately no one,
right.
I don't know if it's just a lack of maintenance or disease or what, but, you have those large trees, they come down and.
Yeah, and
several
unfortunately, they're not, there's not a lot of proactive
Maintenance.
efforts. They wait until they fall down in the street, and then if they fall down in the street, then they take it away. If they fall down on somebody's yard, tough luck.
Yeah.
I wonder if part of that is just because of the fact that Sarah Peelman is basically got two jobs, right? She's both the city arborist and she's the
Right.
sustainability coordinator, and
And I'm
those
su-
are both big jobs.
Well,
in
I'm also
one
sure, I'm
person.
also positive that its funding has something to do with it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's only so much money to cut dead trees down, and we have more
Yeah.
dead trees than we have money probably.
Yeah.
If you've ever listened to her voicemail, you'll know she's kind of overextended. Yeah.
Okay,
So-
so it sounds like we have,
If I could, a couple of us mentioned native plants and education, and you were talking about maybe you were or weren't talking about incentives for solar, but I would like to see ways that we can incentivize people for doing native, at least modifying landscaping practices to reduce greenhouse gases, to reduce chemical use, air quality, noise, in biodiversity. I know the Master Watershed Stewards Program is working on trying to do a little education with the landscape end of it, the businesses, to try and get them to understand that there is a growing market, but there's, just ways to incentivize it and to make things available to people, make plant materials available.
Well, without trying, I already have 8 issues from our list that I think we should look at, and I'm not sure we can even do that. I mean, but I think that's what we need to do. We need to start saying, okay, which one of these are we going to deal with, and what's the most important?
yeah, so how do we want to move
So do we
forward?
want to do any grouping, or
I'm going to interject real quick. Did you have anything to add? I know you were
No,
absent.
like
Okay.
Bob, I felt like they
Oh,
were
that's right, I
already-
forgot you weren't here
We've
last
got
week.
quite, that's all right. I felt like we already have quite a bit. I mean, everybody already knows my number one thing. So,
climate action plan?
Fred, to answer your question.
no, my number one thing is reduction of single-use plastics. So
I was
waste
just-
reduction and source reduction
Source
would be part of
reduction
that.
takes in a whole
But-
bunch of these. It takes in
Yeah.
single-use plastics. It takes in sort of litter mitigation. I mean, you could make an argument for it. It takes care of recycling glass.
The way, and
It takes care of food composting.
the water distribution system for events.
Did you guys?
Well, I think that one has to
So-
kind of stay separate. That's a little,
Well, I mean, it's under that same
It's all
heading,
about
but in
single-use
terms of,
plastics.
okay, but in terms of So the question I think Fred has put to us a couple times is, do we want to group these first and then from that grouping then decide on our priorities? Is that what you're?
Well, if we group them, are we going to have a more manageable group list of priorities to choose from?
I'm not sure how you're going to.
All right, what's our goal in this process? To end up with 2 or 3 things that as a group we want to,
I think
or what is our goal?
to prioritize our priorities.
That we're going to work on as the EAC.
Okay.
What are the top issues that we want to go to the city departments? Now, others might come, but as we're starting this
Right.
process, what are the top issues?
Like, I wouldn't mind working on 10 things, but I don't think that's realistic.
It's not realistic.
Right.
not realistic.
So that's why I asked what our goal is.
Yeah.
I would say 3 or 4,
Okay.
wouldn't you, even if that many?
I think we start with, honestly, 1.
Mhm. And if we were to pick one out of all of these, I would say climate action plan.
Climate action plan.
What's the other?
That's reasonable.
Mhm.
And then as, perhaps as people get to know that we're in existence, groups might come to us and say, what can you do in terms of this? Is there any impetus you can do with this board or with the mayor's office to advise them that they should be looking at this particular issue?
So I'm with you, and at the same time, it's like, but, I want to also work on this. So how do we deal with that? Because I'm sure we all feel
You
that
do it in
way.
another committee?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
make
we-
subcommittees.
Do you want to say
We
something?
don't lose.
Oh, I said just make subcommittees.
No,
Or,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Jackie. You're just looking up.
You
Okay.
just happened to look- I'm sorry.
Okay, so I'm just acknowledging that,
There's always, I mean, in
right.
any scenario, there's always more things that you need to do. So you don't lose the list. You say, okay, this is our top priority and this is what we focus on first.
And we can endorse other things as other groups are working on them.
Well, I don't know that, are we in an endorsement? I don't know. I feel like we're here to advise the city council, right?
Or the mayor's office
Or
or
the
some
mayor's
department?
office, yeah.
It seems to me that not only if you look at something like climate action, something that is encompassing, but also something that's obtainable, rather
Yeah.
than start with something that's like 20 years down the road or something
Yeah.
like that. If we're going to have successes and prove ourselves to be a valuable tool for the city, I think we need to focus on things that are doable and realistic.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, I should be writing, shoot. I'm really bad at note-taking. Sorry.
Well, there's the version of minutes that are not highly detailed. Okay, so what is having that as our priority? What does that mean, would that mean going forward?
Oh, did we take, okay, so I know that
Well,
Pat
before
and
we-
I both voted,
Before we vote on that,
Or-
let's discuss it and say, what would
Oh,
it
okay.
mean if that was our priorities? How would that affect how we function?
well, I think that means that every time, this is again my opinion, so please feel free to disagree or offer your insights, that every month when we're together, we're saying, okay, what needs to be done? We're assigning work, and then the next individually, and then the next month we come together and we bring that together. Or hopefully a week beforehand, we share information so that when we're here, we can be most effective.
It would also mean that we become much more familiar with what the city has already done
Yeah.
and, where they're going and how we might influence that. Probably means we look at other climate action plans
Mhm.
from other cities. We look at Pennsylvania's climate action plan.
So have we determined Mike can or can't talk?
He can talk.
He can talk. Did you want?
He chatted, but I don't think he unmuted and spoke. But are you hearing us, Mike, okay?
I can speak.
You can. Look at that. He's just been very quiet.
I have a lot of things running through my brain and, maybe we should define a strategy something that is really quick and maybe not so torturous as a climate action plan, that until we get it done, it's also on the agenda, a secondary item.
I like that.
An ordinance that helps Sarah Fieldman be able to help trees get planted in people's backyards, they lost a tree, something little like that.
Do you think that's little? I feel like setting an ordinance is not little, but
That's easy.
It's littler than a climate action plan, though.
okay, fair enough, fair enough.
Ordinance, but if you don't enforce it,
Yeah, that's yeah.
Right.
it's easy to write it.
Just a thought, that it'd be nice to have a concept of, okay, we have 1 hour to meet and get stuff done. It'd be nice to show some real product, within the first year of something we've done that benefited lower income people in the city. I just think from a strategic standpoint, that would be good for us.
So
I
how-
agree, but within the first year. But do you think? I mean, you don't think it would be possible for us to basically take the data that the city has, right? Like we have a greenhouse gas audit, the city, and then move that to development of a full plan by the end of the year. If each one of us is like given homework every month and we're kind of constantly moving that ball forward, what does that mean?
I think we need to do it you're a data person, so that sounds really attractive to you. Some of us are less oriented in that way.
I mean, at this point, we have the data, so it's not about the data. It's more about kind of coming up with solutions, prioritizing those solutions, reaching out to the community, finding incentives and programs that help to. So I don't think it's really.
We don't have to generate
It's just-
today.
I
We don't
get-
have to generate the data. We're not really analyzing the data.
Okay, so what do,
Can I just interject for 1 second? I'm going back to our presentation from We Conserve PA and trying to remember, I should have prepared a little bit better here with this, but I'm trying to remember sort of the steps that the EACs should be taking, right, as they're building themselves. One was the bylaws, check, we did that, right? The next was, I believe, there was setting goals and priorities.
Yep.
When you say a climate action plan, to me, that's so broad, and we're in the process of gathering information with the P4P process, like we're on our way. So part of it is, I see where Mike is headed, and I see where Sam is headed, in that, like, you're setting some priority, whether that's, you want to establish a set of goals at the city level, that you want to make sure that you're involved in the land development process, let's say. We don't even have a land development process, but let's say we did.
DeSalvo.
Right? You want to establish some area where the EAC would use something. I'm just throwing this out there. To me, that's where the advisory piece comes in with the city and the board. And I think we were headed, I know that I showed a lot of information today, and I think where we were headed was to try to focus a little bit more, and by saying climate action plan seems so broad, and we haven't established the priorities even for the climate action plan yet. I mean, we don't really know what those are yet. We're gonna.
Well, see, that's where the
we know
advisory
what's up.
council could say, we would like you to consider this,
Right,
this, and this as part of your action plan.
right. And you would be very involved in that process anyways, this board. But I'm trying to go back to what We Conserve Erie, or We Conserve PA mentioned as sort of, and maybe to look at some of the other EACs that, like the one in Meadville, I know Jenny Tompkins has mentioned, the one in Meadville, what they've said as their priorities. It must have been, one of them was the,
Oh,
There's Jenny. Did she want to say something, or she's just there?
Yeah, did you want to say something, Jenny? Jenny, is that why you hopped onto the Zoom? Or are you just here?
Can she hear us?
Jenny, unmute.
Oh, there she is.
Hi guys, I was double booked.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
She was double booked.
I was double booked and now I find another chance to hop on, so thanks to my,
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
okay.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a lag between my feed and your YouTube feed. So Mike shared the link with me and I appreciate him doing so. I'm now on. Sorry.
But you just got on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're discussing what, what are, oh, it's almost 4:15. We're overtime.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
we didn't get to the transportation improvement plan.
Well, let me just quickly mention, because there is I could, maybe you could share the public notice that I shared with you, with people by email? Right, but there's a public review and comment period on the tip, May 15th through June 13th, and there are going to be, there's a couple, the first will be a virtual meeting from noon to 1 p.m.
Is this the transportation improvement program?
That's right, but
Okay.
when we're talking about verges and stuff like that, those are all things that could go in there, just like, this is, for those of us who are strongly interested in these things about sidewalks and roads and stuff, it is important to look at this plan. I'm having trouble communicating with Emily Alios. I think she might even be on leave right now. Okay, so if you can help me find who's, if you could email me her contact info, because I need to be able to access the information by May 8th.
Okay, so the only thing
June
for the
8th.
transportation improvement
I'm
program
just letting
is
people
just
know that it's there.
that it's there.
There are
Okay.
public meetings, there's a public comment period. Some of us have a strong interest in that.
Okay.
All right, so what's going to happen in May?
I will lead the meeting.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
But I'm just curious
Awesome.
if there's anything I need to let you know that, to cover things I'm
I mean, if there's
interested in.
something that you want me to pass on or speak about during the meeting, let me know. I
Yeah.
probably won't be able to elaborate as much as you, but
Right.
I'll at least
I'm
pass it
going to
along.
be, after May 4th, I'll be off the grid until June 8th, so you won't hear from me at all.
Okay. So, motion to, does anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Before we do that, can we just say that next month, we're going to take another look at priorities? And could you put on the agenda that I would like to bring a recommendation regarding a process involving HECA to the advisory committee? Okay?
So you want HECA to be a point
A
of
new
new
business.
business? Yeah.
And it'll be just,
So we have an unexplained absence. Should we just ask him to check in with him?
Yes,
Do you want me to do it, or you do it?
we would like to do it.
Okay, I'll do it. Okay.
Get your, okay. Any other final notes for anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I shall make a motion to adjourn.
And I will second.
And let me ask a question, are we gonna always end before 4:30? Just because I put money in the meter, so I just wanna know, what's the actual time of?
We cannot stay later than 4:30 here.
Okay, that answers my question.
They don't get security.
Right, but, So 4:15 was getting us out by 4:30, is that what?
Well, he asked me, because he has to walk up and do
Right.
everything, so just
Yes.
give us a
Okay, so I can just do my hour and 40 minutes instead of my 2 hours. I'll save 25 cents, you
There
know?
you go.
Right.
All right,
I was just, gotta know
all
this.
in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None.
Michael, when do you come home?
You're not doing it, Freda, and
May 8th?